Hello everyone, this is Reed Riggs offering a careful ramble about some thoughts that I've been sharing with my students lately. I teach Chinese language and I've noticed some of my students coming around. I'm not sure how else to make it said shortly. Coming around to recognizing that we're using the language to communicate. And this has happened in different ways. Some students, most of it was actually out of class experiences where students said, hey, I used my Chinese for something. And then everything kind of flipped in class. Instead of going through texts and activities and contexts and classroom communication for the goal of gleaning vocabulary and really treating it like they're ticking boxes. Like, okay, I've learned this many new words, done. Those words are done, so I shouldn't ever use them because if I use them, they'll get in the way of learning new words. So it's this like endless list of new words to learn, as opposed to some functional perspective of like I shouldn't focus on new words first. I should focus on whatever ideas I want to communicate, and then choose whatever words are needed. And what ends up happening then is that words get recycled a lot. A frequency dictionary will show you the normal range that words get recycled. So I've started telling my students that I use the word the every day so many times, and I have no idea how many times I use the word the because I'm not focused on it. And I challenge you to tell me how many times roughly you've used the word the. Is it way less than 1,000, around 1,000, or way more than 1,000? And I expect that you have no idea, that no one does. And it's because that's how we use language. We're focused on messages, meaning, ideas. We're not focused on which particular words we're using. So another manifestation of that problem came up where I have students who do complete their work. I would consider them high-performing students in terms of getting work done, studying for tests, taking their tests, but I see not much proficiency at all growing in them. I don't see their ability to use the language, and when I use words that I know that we've used a lot before, and I know that it should be basic, that they've learned a long time ago, they just sort of shrug and go, I don't know what that means. And then I tell them and they go, oh, yeah, we already studied that. So I just told everybody in one of my classes the other day, I said, okay, there's a hard truth. I just have to kind of yell it at all of you. If you have a text and you've studied that text, and then you've finished work and you've even taken tests and whatever, and then I say to you, hey, read this text out loud to me, or hey, let's discuss this text, and you say, oh, no, I don't understand any of it, or no, if you say, I already learned it, but I can't read it and I can't discuss it, I can't answer questions about it, I really can't do anything with it, then I would say you've studied it, but you have not learned it. And I'm not saying that learning needs to be that you've memorized the entire thing, or you've committed the whole thing to your perfect memory. I'm saying you can do the most minimal things with it, like that you can read enough of the words in it to tell me the basic gist of the main messages of the text. Like if you can do more than that, awesome. But if you're really telling me like, oh, I don't understand any of it, then that's a measure of what you've learned. If you can't do anything at all, then that's a measure of what you've learned. Nothing. You've learned nothing at all if that's what you're telling me. So I've started telling my students, any text we've had before, or if you don't want to go back, then moving forward, treat your text the way you would treat a set of flashcards. One of the only things I like about flashcards is that you can keep track of what you know and what you don't know, what you're strongly familiar with versus what you're not strongly familiar with. And the way we go through flashcards is we have one side, we look at it, we try to remember what's on the other side, and we're checking if we remember what's on the other side. And then we look at the other side and go, oh, that's what it is. And that promotes a certain kind of learning. What I don't like is that everything is so isolated that you're not really learning the flexible usage of each word and the many different meanings that each word will have in each context. You're not learning context when you go through flashcards. And I would say you're misleading yourself. If you had a stack of pictures of ocean waves and you treated them like flashcards, you memorized them, you would be learning the wrong things about how ocean waves really move and how to use your body to surf and swim and stand on a surfboard and balance and things like that. None of that would be happening. And that's really what's happening when we go through flashcards. We're not building up a sense of statistical frequency of what words appear in what contexts and which meaning is associated with each word when it's used in each type of context, and thereby building up categories of contexts simultaneously with categories of word forms and categories of meanings that are all tied to each other in a big web of mental statistics that are very unconscious, but it's just how we experience the world and it's how we experience language. You're getting none of that from flashcards, but you do get it from texts. And so what I'm telling my students now is, please treat your text the way you would treat flashcards, where you go back through it and you keep checking yourself, where you see if you can read each sentence, you see if you can keep track of the meaning of a paragraph, connecting the meaning of each sentence in order to get the main messages, the main ideas from the paragraph. And any notes you've written, if you've written out the pinyin for Chinese, the romanization, if you've written English translations, that's all part of the process. That's okay. Just cover them up and check the text again, or get a clean copy of the text and check yourself, check if you can read it. Because what I think a lot of my students have done is done the work of making the notes and then read their notes and said, oh, I understand my notes, and then said, I'm done, I did it, I learned this. And again, go really do the checking the original text. If you can understand none of it, then that's a measure of how much you've learned. So you need to go back through it and really treat it like flashcards. Okay, so that's my little ramble, and I hope some people find it useful. Thanks for listening.